Welcome back to We the People. I am Hillary Gonzalez Dockery, and if you're just joining us, buckle in. Because what's happening right now in the streets of Los Angeles and beyond, it's not just political noise. It's a full-blown constitutional showdown. This week marks day 6 of protests in Los Angeles, sparked by aggressive immigration raids. Protesters, curfews, rubber bullets. Yes, it's back. President Trump, he sent in the Marines. Governor Newsom, he's calling it authoritarian and he's suing. But this isn't just about today. This is 2020's ghosts come back to haunt 2025. Democrats paid a price in 2020 and they're behaving very different this time around. Mayor Karen Bass is now warning damage to our city will not be tolerated. Well, of course, because in a year, LA is supposed to be hosting the World Cup. And guess what? Internationally, FIFA is looking, going, should we even be going to LA based on the violence and turbulence they're viewing and seeing? So even Katie Porter is saying, don't give Trump what he wants. That tells you something. Democrats are on defense. They remember the heavy toll that they took in 2020, and they've learned. So let's get constitutional. The Posse Comitatus Act restricts military and domestic policing. Trump says he's invoking the Insurrection Act, but does this pass legal muster? That's the big question. And that is what Governor Newsom is testing or proclaiming. He's saying that Trump is violating the Constitution because he did not give permission to initiate the National Guard or even bring in military. But also, is he playing right into Trump's little web? So Trump is basically playing from the Kenosha 2020 playbook, where chaos turned into campaign capital. And let's be honest, it worked. It may not have won the 2020 election for Trump, but down the line, it absolutely helped Republicans. Democrats are walking a political tightrope. Denounce violence, or are they going to back the violence that is going by turning a blind eye, saying that these riots, the looting, the pelting of stones to federal agents or police law enforcement, urging peace but avoiding looking soft? What is this balance? But this isn't just about Trump. It's not about Newsom, and it's not just about ICE. It's about what kind of country we want to be. And I say we because remember, it is about us. It's we the people. Do we want the military enforcing immigration law in our neighborhoods? Because when the federal government rolls in without consent, history doesn't usually smile on it. Peaceful protests? It is a constitutional right, but it is not a duty. Also, the question is, when do protests go too far? It is not protected First Amendment right to free speech when you start acting out criminally, when you start acting out violently, when you are impeding law enforcement. Look at what just happened when there was a raid for sex crimes, trafficking, sex workers, and for drugs. And people were trying to impede by attacking law enforcement. There needs to be a step back with common sense. Here in Florida, we are seeing people peacefully protesting what they feel is a violation of rights. Whether it's, okay, I shouldn't be rolling up with local law enforcement and arresting undocumented migrants. But be peaceful. State it. You are absolutely within your right. But when you start throwing rocks, concrete, destroying property, And then on top of that, making an excuse as to why you should be hurling bricks, Molotov cocktails, or breaking into businesses, that is not a protest. That is a riot. And as we all witnessed in 2020 during the BLM riots, they can quickly get out of control. And also what we're seeing, even from like last year when it was the protest in support of Palestine, that there are professional or people being paid to go to these, to start chaos, to start trouble. When is enough enough? When do we, the people, determine, okay, can we please have a peaceful protest like what we're showing now? How can we prevent chaos, destruction, and more in our neighborhoods, in our communities? When the federal government rolls in without consent, history doesn't usually smile on it. So, what does that mean? Because is it that the National Guard should only be deployed if the government, the state governor, is in agreement? And when does the state governor get to be overridden? When he decides, nope, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to let the shit hit the fan and just let it go. And I apologize for using that word, but it's true. To Governor Newsom, lead. Don't just litigate. Actually use the common sense that God gave you, saying, you know what? We can't allow our city to be destroyed. We cannot allow our communities to be destroyed. We need peace and order. President Trump, there's a difference between strength and domination. To my fellow people, look deeper. Ask who's protecting your rights and who's playing for power. This isn't 2020, but it's starting to look very familiar. And the stakes have never been higher. We are seeing out there that people are joining into these protests because they are being offered money. We're seeing that some of these protesters are having very expensive gear for protection and stuff. And once again, we're seeing people who are dressed in Antifa style clothing and potentially be Antifa. What is the real bottom line? Is it because we want due process for those that are potentially up for deportation? Or is the government in the right to say, like Bill Clinton during his presidency, that you can be subject to, if you're here illegally, you do not have a right to due process and you're going to be expelled? But one thing is for certain, regardless of where you stand on this issue, one thing has to be a unified voice. We do not stand with violence. We do not stand with looting. We do not stand with it being an outright lawless nature of rioting and burning of buildings and cars. I mean, there's been footage of police cars being attacked with Molotov cocktails. We should not stand for that. We also should not be standing for the fact that we're having the necessity of a military state being brought in. Now, for those saying, well, this has never been, and this is just a unique experience. No, it's not. But we sure as heck don't want the same result as when, and this is before my time as well, but back in Kent State, where in the early 1970s, the National Guard was deployed to deal with the anti-war protests, and there were deaths because they used their firearms against protesters. We do not want to see that. But we also do not want to see where our law enforcement, something that has changed in the Democrats, where versus 2020, they're not saying defund the police anymore, because guess what? We need those people. We need those men and women in blue. We need those individuals, but we also have to respect them. Because you know what? They're there to keep everybody safe. It's not about them versus us. It is how to maintain civil orderly conduct versus absolute chaos. We've lived through chaos. We saw it. We witnessed it in so many locations during 2020. We do not want the chaos that was erupting in many college towns as well. So there has to be some type of calming effect between the Newsom, who is trying to be the leader of the Democratic Party and potentially looking at 2028, versus Trump, who is, let's stamp down everything because we want to keep everything orderly. And then you had the mayor of LA, who has already initiated curfews, who is saying to the people, do not destroy murals, do not destroy buildings, because guess what? Economically, that is going to impact LA. Next up, the constitutional history of military use on the US soil and what past presidents did when America boiled over. Tune right back in to We the People.